3 weeks had passed since the night everything changed. 3 weeks since a simple medic gave his blood to a dying princess. 3 weeks since the universe looked at Earth and finally saw its true worth. Tay stood on a platform above the clouds, looking down at his home planet. He was inside a Velen observation station, one of many that now orbited Earth. The blue and green sphere below him seemed so small from up here, so fragile, and yet it held billions of people who carried the most valuable substance in the galaxy inside their veins. "You always come here when you want to think," Yuna said, walking up beside him. She had fully recovered from the battle. The golden glow beneath her skin had become permanent, a sign of her changed nature. She wore robes of white and gold now, marking her new status within the Empire. "It helps me remember who I am," Tay said. "A medic from a small country. A man who used to hide in the mountains. Sometimes I wake up and think this is all a dream. It is not a dream. It is real. All of it." Yuna took his hand. Their connection pulsed between them, a warm feeling that never faded. "Are you ready for today?" "Today. The day that would change everything again," Tay nodded slowly. "Ready as I will ever be." They walked together through the station. Velen guards bowed as they passed. Scientists and diplomats stopped their conversations to watch them. In 3 weeks, Tay had become the most famous human in the galaxy, the man who saved the princess, the first blood-bonded, the bridge between worlds. He hated the attention, but he understood why it was necessary. The main hall of the station was filled with people. Not just Velen, but representatives from dozens of other species, tall insect-like beings from distant stars, small, furry creatures with large ears and wise eyes, beings of pure energy that flickered like colored flames, and in the center of it all, humans. The governments of Earth had reacted to the alien revelation in different ways. Some had panicked. Some had denied everything, but most had eventually accepted the truth when Velen ships appeared in the sky and broadcast messages of peace and friendship to the entire planet. Now, representatives from every major nation stood in the hall, waiting to hear what the aliens wanted, waiting to learn why human blood was so special. Emperor Jay of the Velen Empire sat on a throne made of crystallized starlight. He was old, older than any human could live, with silver hair that fell past his shoulders and eyes that held the wisdom of ages. He wore armor of gold and white, decorated with symbols that told the history of his people. "Let the presentation begin," he commanded. Hai stepped forward. She had become the official spokesperson for the scientific team that had studied Tay's blood and its effects on Yuna. She held a small device that projected images into the air for everyone to see. "For thousands of years, the Velen Empire has faced a slow decline. Our people live long lives, but our blood weakens with each generation. Our healing abilities fade. Our connection to energy diminishes. We have searched the galaxy for a solution, examining countless species, testing millions of samples. We found nothing that could help us." She pressed a control, and the image changed to show a comparison between Velen and human blood. "Then we found Earth, a small planet on the edge of explored space, a world that had not yet developed faster than light travel. A species that most of the galaxy dismissed as primitive and unimportant." She looked at Tay with gratitude in her eyes. "We were wrong, so very wrong." The image zoomed in on human blood cells, showing their structure in incredible detail. Human blood is unique in the galaxy. It carries iron-based proteins that can bond with almost any other biological system. It contains regenerative cells that adapt to new environments within hours. It has an immune system that learns and evolves faster than anything we have ever seen. And most importantly, it carries something we have no name for. An essence of survival, of determination, of refusal to give up even when all hope is lost. She showed images of Yuna, before and after the transfusion. The difference was remarkable. When Princess Yuna received human blood, her body did not reject it as we expected. Instead, her cells absorbed it, learned from it, and combined with it to create something new, something stronger. Her healing abilities have increased by 300%. Her energy manipulation has expanded beyond anything recorded in Velen history. She has effectively reversed the genetic decline that has affected our people for millennia. Whispers filled the hall. Representatives from other species leaned forward, their eyes wide with interest. This is not limited to Velen, Hai continued. We have run simulations with the biological data of 12 other species. In every case, human blood showed potential for positive bonding. Not rejection, not destruction, but enhancement. She turned off the device and faced the crowd directly. Humans are not primitive. They are not unimportant. They are the key. The key to saving not just the Velen Empire, but potentially every species in the galaxy that faces biological decline. The hall erupted in noise. Questions were shouted in a dozen languages. Diplomats argued with each other. The human representatives looked confused and overwhelmed. Emperor J raised his hand. Silence fell instantly. This discovery changes the balance of power in the galaxy. Many will want to control humanity, to use them as resources rather than respect them as equals. That cannot be allowed. He stood from his throne and walked down the steps to stand before the human representatives. I am Emperor J, ruler of the Velen Empire, keeper of 200 star systems, protector of countless worlds, and I make this promise to you now. In front of witnesses from every corner of the galaxy, he knelt. The Emperor of the Velen Empire knelt before the humans. Earth will be protected. Your people will be respected. You will join the galactic community not as servants or resources, but as partners, as equals, as the precious gift you truly are. The human representatives were speechless. One of them, an older woman with gray hair and sharp eyes, finally found her voice. Why should we trust you? We have only known of your existence for 3 weeks. For all we know, this could be a trick, a way to control us. Emperor J smiled. It was a kind smile, full of understanding. You are right to be cautious. Trust must be earned, not given freely. That is why I am not asking you to trust me. I am asking you to trust her. He gestured, and Yuna stepped forward. She stood between the Emperor and the humans, a bridge between two worlds. I carry human blood in my veins, she said. I am connected to Tay in ways that cannot be broken. Through that connection, I understand your people in ways no other alien ever could. Your fears, your hopes, your incredible capacity for both destruction and creation. She looked at the human representatives with her golden purple eyes. You have every reason to be afraid. The galaxy is vast and full of dangers. There are those who will want to harm you, to use you, to take what makes you special, but there are also those who will protect you, who will stand with you, who will fight beside you. She reached out her hand to the older woman who had spoken. I am Princess Yuna of the Velen Empire. I owe my life to a human, and I swear on my blood, which is now shared blood, that I will protect your world with everything I have. Will you give us a chance? Will you let us prove that we are worthy of your trust? The older woman looked at Yuna's hand for a long moment. Then she looked at Tay, standing behind the princess. He gave her a small nod. Just a simple medic from a small country, confirming that yes, this alien princess was telling the truth. The woman took Yuna's hand. We will give you a chance, she said. One chance. Yuna smiled, and it was like sunrise after a long night. One chance is all we need. The ceremony continued for hours. Treaties were discussed. Plans were made. The foundation of a new relationship between Earth and the galaxy was laid. Brick by brick, word by word, but Tay did not stay for all of it. At some point, he slipped away and returned to the observation deck. He looked down at Earth, at the planet that had been his entire world until 3 weeks ago. Soon, humans would travel to the stars. They would meet other species, visit other worlds, become part of something greater than themselves. And it had all started with a single act of kindness in a snowstorm. Yuna found him there hours later, after the ceremony was finished and the diplomats had retired. You missed the ending, she said. I know. I am not very good at politics. Neither am I. She stood beside him, looking down at Earth. It is beautiful, your world. It has problems, wars, pollution, inequality. We are far from perfect. No species is perfect. But your species is remarkable. You fight and destroy. Yes. But you also build and create and love, with an intensity that amazes me. She turned to face him. And you save dying alien princesses who crash in your mountains. Tay laughed softly. That was probably not my smartest decision. It was your best decision. And because of it, 2 worlds are now connected forever. She took his hands. The Emperor has asked me to become the official ambassador to Earth, to live among your people, learn from them, and help them prepare for their future in the galaxy. What did you say? I said yes. But I have a condition. I need a guide. Someone who knows humanity from the inside. Someone who can teach me about your cultures, your histories, your hopes and dreams. Tay felt his heart beat faster. Are you asking me to be your guide? I am asking you to be my partner, in all things. Her eyes shone with light and love. Will you do it? Will you help me show the galaxy what humanity can become? Tay looked at her. This princess from the stars who had fallen into his life and changed everything. He thought about his small room at the research station, his lonely nights, his days that all felt the same. That life was gone now. It had ended the moment he walked through a snowstorm to help a stranger. Yes, he said. I will. Yuna smiled and pulled him into an embrace. Their blood sang together. 2 different kinds mixed into one song. Behind them, Earth turned slowly. Blue and green and beautiful. Ahead of them, the stars waited. A new dawn was breaking. Not just for Earth, not just for the Velen Empire, but for the entire galaxy. And it had all started with a simple act of blood given freely, without expectation, without fear. The most human act of all. This was just the beginning. Nira pressed her back against the cold metal wall and watched the human. She had not slept all night. Every time she closed her eyes, she expected to feel his teeth on her throat. Every time he moved, she flinched. Her heart had been beating fast for hours, and her muscles were sore from staying so tense. But the human had not attacked. He had gone to sleep in his bed on the other side of the room, wrapped in blankets, and he had not moved since. His breathing was slow and steady. He looked peaceful. Nira did not understand. She had grown up hearing stories about humans. Every child in the Vellani Empire knew about them. They were the monsters from the 3rd planet of a yellow star. Far away on the edge of the galaxy, they were different from all other species. They did not have claws or fangs or venom. They did not have hard shells or thick scales. Their bodies were soft and weak, but they were the most dangerous creatures in the universe. The elders said humans were born from a death world. Their planet was covered with poisons, diseases, and predators. The water was filled with things that would eat you. The land was filled with things that would kill you. Even the air carried invisible death, and the humans had survived. They had not just survived, they had conquered. They had killed every predator on their world. They had tamed every beast. They had built machines that could destroy mountains, and weapons that could crack the sky open. They had even learned to control the atom itself, creating bombs that could turn entire cities into dust. The Vellani had been watching Earth for 500 years. They had watched the humans fight endless wars against each other. They had seen millions die in battle. Millions more die from hunger and disease. They had watched the humans burn their own forests, poison their own rivers, and fill their own air with smoke. And through it all, the humans just kept going. Nothing could stop them. Nothing could slow them down. They were like a virus, spreading and growing no matter what happened. When the humans finally left their planet and reached the stars, the galaxy had been terrified. The Vellani Council had voted to avoid all contact. Other species had done the same. No one wanted to draw the attention of the human predators, but now Nira was trapped in a small room with one of them. She looked at the sleeping human. He was not very big. Nira was taller than him, His arms did not look strong. His teeth, when he had talked, were small and flat, not the fangs of a killer. He did not look dangerous, but Nira knew better. She had seen the recordings. She had seen what humans could do when they were angry. She had seen them tear each other apart, with weapons and bare hands. She had seen them keep fighting even when they were injured, even when they were dying. They did not stop. They never stopped. The human made a sound and rolled over in his bed. Nira's heart jumped, and she pressed herself harder against the wall. But he did not wake up. He just mumbled something in his strange language and went back to sleep. Nira let out a slow breath. Her body was exhausted, but she could not rest. She had to stay awake. She had to be ready to run. Not that running would help. Outside, the storm still raged. She could hear the wind screaming and the ice hitting the walls. If she went out there, she would die in minutes. Her species was not built for cold. The Villani came from a warm world, a world of soft sunlight and gentle rain. This frozen hell was slowly killing her. She looked at her hands. The skin was dark, in some places frostbite. It hurt badly. But she was afraid to make any noise. She did not want to wake the human. The hours passed slowly. The storm did not stop. Nira sat in her corner, wrapped in the blanket the human had given her, watching and waiting. Then the human woke up. He opened his eyes and sat up in bed. He looked at Nira, and she tensed, ready for anything. But he just smiled a little and nodded his head at her. Then he got out of bed and walked to his small kitchen. Nira watched his every move. He filled a pot with water. He put it on something that made heat. He added things to the water, dried plants. Some kind of powder. The smell that filled the room was strange, but not bad. The human poured the hot liquid into 2 cups. He carried 1 cup to Nira and placed it on the floor near her feet. Then he went back to the other side of the room and sat down with his own cup. He was not looking at her. He was looking at a screen on his desk, reading something in his strange writing. He sipped his drink slowly, ignoring her completely. Nira looked at the cup. Steam rose from it, warm and inviting. Her throat was dry and sore. She wanted to drink so badly. But what if it was poison? What if the human was trying to drug her? She looked at him. He was drinking the same thing. If it was poison, he would be poisoning himself too. Slowly, carefully, Nira picked up the cup. She sniffed it. The smell was warm and slightly sweet. She took a tiny sip. It was good. It was hot and soothing, and it made her cold body feel a little warmer. She drank more, unable to stop herself. The human glanced at her and smiled again. Then he went back to his reading. Nira finished the drink and held the empty cup in her hands. Her mind was full of confusion. This was not how humans were supposed to act. They were supposed to be violent and cruel. They were supposed to enjoy causing pain. But this human had saved her life. He had given her food and warmth. He had not tried to hurt her at all. Maybe he was waiting. Maybe he was playing with her, like a predator plays with its food before killing it. The elders had said humans like to do that. They like to make their prey feel safe before striking. The human stood up, and Nira's whole body went tight. But he just walked to a cabinet and pulled out a small white box. He brought it over to her and opened it, showing her what was inside. It was medicine. Nira could see bandages, small bottles, tools for treating wounds. She had similar things on her own ship. The human pointed at her hands at the dark spots of frostbite. He made a motion, asking if he could help. Nira pulled her hands back, hiding them under the blanket. She shook her head quickly. The human did not push. He closed the box and set it on the floor near her. Then he went back to his desk and continued his work. Nira looked at the medicine box. She looked at her damaged hands. The pain was getting worse. If she did not treat the frostbite soon, she might lose her fingers. But she could not let the human touch her. She could not let him get that close. The day passed slowly. The human worked at his desk, sometimes looking at screens, sometimes writing things down. He did not pay much attention to Nira. He acted like she was not even there. At midday, he made more food. Again, he gave her a portion and ate his own. Again, Nira ate, because she was starving and had no choice. In the afternoon, the human did something strange. He pulled out a small device and pressed a button. Music began to play soft, gentle sounds that Nira had never heard before. The human closed his eyes and leaned back in his chair, listening. Nira listened too. The music was beautiful. It was sad and sweet, and it made her think of home. She felt tears form in her eyes, but she blinked them away quickly. When the music ended, the human opened his eyes. He saw Nira looking at him, and he smiled. He pressed the button again, and different music played. This one was happier, lighter. Nira did not understand. Why was this monster listening to beautiful music? Why was he sharing it with her? Monsters did not make beautiful things. Monsters destroyed. Night came. The storm still raged outside. The human prepared for sleep again. He looked at Nira, pointed at the medicine box, and pointed at her hands. He was offering to help again. Nira hesitated. The pain was very bad now. She could barely move her fingers. Slowly, she pushed the box toward him. The human picked it up and moved closer. Nira's heart pounded. But she did not run. She held out her damaged hands. The human worked gently. His touch was soft and careful. He cleaned the wounds and put medicine on them. He wrapped her hands in bandages. The whole time, he was so close that Nira could hear his heartbeat. It was slow and steady. When he finished, he moved back to his bed. He said something in his language, something soft and kind. Then he lay down and closed his eyes. Nira looked at her bandaged hands. The pain was already less. The human had helped her. For the first time since she had entered this hut, Nira felt something other than fear. She felt confusion. And somewhere, deep inside, she felt a tiny spark of hope. 3 days passed. The storm continued. But inside the small hut, something was changing. Nira had stopped pressing herself against the wall. She still stayed on her side of the room, but she no longer looked ready to run. Her silver eyes still watched the human carefully, but the pure terror in them had faded to something more like caution. Taewoo noticed the change. He was glad. He had been working hard to show her that he was not a threat. He moved slowly around the hut. He never made sudden movements. He always announced what he was doing with simple gestures before he did it. He treated her like a frightened guest, not a prisoner. On the 4th morning, something new happened. Nira spoke. Her voice was soft and musical, completely different from human voices. She pointed at the cup of tea Taewoo was drinking and made a sound. Then she pointed at herself and repeated the sound. She was asking for tea. Taewoo smiled and poured her a cup. When he handed it to her, their fingers touched for just a moment. Nira flinched, but she did not pull away. She took the cup and nodded her head, a gesture that seemed to mean thank you. They had made their first real communication. After that, things began to move faster. Nira pointed at things and made sounds. And Taewoo would say the human word. Blanket. Cup. Water. Food. Door. Window. Slowly, she began to learn. And Taewoo learned too. He learned the Valani word for warm. He learned the word for cold. He learned the word for thank you. It was not much, but it was a start. On the 5th day, Taewoo showed Nira his computer. He pulled up pictures of Earth and showed them to her. She came closer to look, her silver eyes wide with curiosity. The first picture was of a beach. Golden sand, blue water, a bright yellow sun in the sky. Nira made a soft sound of wonder. Her world had water, but it was all rivers and small lakes. She had never seen an ocean. Taewoo showed her more pictures. Mountains covered with snow, forests thick with green trees, deserts stretching out to the horizon, cities full of tall buildings and bright lights. The earth was beautiful, and Nira could not stop looking. Then Tae-woo showed her pictures of people. Nira tensed when she saw the first picture. It was a crowd of humans, hundreds of them together. They were at some kind of celebration, wearing colorful clothes and smiling. Some were dancing, some were eating food from small stands. Children ran between the adults, laughing. It did not look like a gathering of monsters. Tae-woo showed her more. A family sitting around a table, sharing a meal. A mother holding a baby, her face full of love. Two old people sitting on a bench, holding hands. Children playing in a park, chasing each other and falling down and getting back up. Nira stared at the pictures for a long time. These humans looked so normal. They looked like her own people, like Villani families enjoying their lives. Where were the weapons? Where was the violence? Tae-woo seemed to understand what she was thinking. He nodded slowly and pointed at himself, then at the happy people in the pictures. He was telling her that he was like them, that they were all like that. Nira was not sure she believed him. She had seen too many recordings of human wars. She had seen the death and destruction. Those things were real too, but maybe humans were more complicated than she had thought. Maybe they were capable of both great violence and great kindness. That night, Nira slept for the first time since entering the hut. She curled up in her corner with her blanket, and her eyes finally closed. Tae-woo watched her for a moment, feeling a warmth in his chest. She was starting to trust him. The next morning, the storm finally began to weaken. The wind was still strong, but the snow had stopped falling. Through the window, Nira could see the frozen landscape stretching out under a pale gray sky. She pointed at the window and said something in her language. Then she said the human word she had learned, "Go." She wanted to leave. Tae-woo felt a strange sadness. He understood. She had a ship somewhere. She had a place to be, a life to return to. She could not stay in his hut forever, but he also worried. Was she strong enough to travel? Her hands were healing, but she was still weak, and he did not know how far she had to go, or what dangers waited for her outside. He pointed at her, then at the door, then shook his head. He pointed at the sky. The storm was not completely over. He held up one finger. One more day. He was asking her to stay one more day. Nira hesitated. She looked at the window, then at Tae-woo. Finally, she nodded. One more day. Tae-woo used the extra time well. He gathered supplies, food packets, water containers, emergency heat packs. He found a thick coat that was too big for him and gave it to Nira. It was not perfect, but it would keep her warmer than her torn Villani clothes. While he worked, Nira watched him. She did not help. She did not know what he was doing at first. But slowly, she understood. He was preparing supplies for her journey. He was helping her leave. A human was helping her. The stories had not mentioned this. The elders had never said that humans could be kind. They had only talked about the killing, the wars, the destruction. They had made humans sound like mindless beasts, driven only by hunger and rage. But Tae-woo was none of those things. He was quiet and gentle. He liked music and hot tea. He smiled easily and never raised his voice. He had saved her life, and now he was helping her get home. Nira felt something crack inside her chest. It was the wall she had built. The wall of fear and hate that her people had taught her to build around anything human. That wall was breaking, piece by piece. That evening, Tae-woo did something unexpected. He brought out a small device and showed it to Nira. It was a camera, and it had pictures stored inside pictures of his own life. He showed her his family. His mother, a small woman with gray hair and a warm smile. His father, who looked serious, but had kind eyes. His sister and her children, a boy and a girl who looked like tiny versions of Tae-woo himself. He pointed at the children and said a word. Nephew, niece. Then he pointed at his chest and made a motion like he was hugging something. He loved them. He was showing her that he loved his family. Nira looked at the pictures. She saw the love in the human faces. She saw how they held each other, how they smiled at the camera. This was a family, just like her own family back home. She pointed at herself and then at the camera. She wanted to show him something too. Nira did not have a camera, but she had her memory. She began to describe her own family, using the few human words she had learned, and filling in the rest with gestures. She had parents who worried about her. She had a younger brother who wanted to be a pilot. She had friends who would be wondering where she was. Tae-woo listened carefully, trying to understand. When she mentioned her brother, he smiled and pointed at the picture of his sister's son. He understood they both had young family members who dreamed of flying. For the first time, Nira smiled at him. It was a small smile, hesitant and fragile. But it was real. That night, they sat on opposite sides of the hut and shared a meal. The storm had almost stopped, and the silence outside felt peaceful instead of threatening. Nira was no longer afraid. She was still cautious, still watching, but the terror was gone. When they finished eating, Tae-woo said something in his language. Nira did not understand all the words, but she understood the feeling behind them. He was wishing her well. He was saying goodbye. Tomorrow, she would leave. Tomorrow, she would go back to her ship and fly away from this frozen world. She would return to the Villani Empire and tell her people what had happened. But what would she tell them? Would she tell them that humans were just as dangerous as the stories said? Or would she tell them the truth that she had met one human, and he had been kind? Nira lay down in her corner, but she did not sleep right away. She thought about everything that had happened. She thought about the fear, and the kindness, and the pictures of laughing children. She thought about Tae-woo, the quiet human who listened to beautiful music and missed his family. The galaxy had told her that humans were monsters, but now she was not so sure. The morning came cold and clear. The storm had finally died, leaving behind a world of white and silver. The ice sparkled under the pale sun, and the air was so still that Nira could hear her own heartbeat. She stood at the window, looking out at the frozen landscape. Somewhere out there, her ship was waiting. It had crashed 2 days before she found Tae-woo's hut. The engines had failed in the storm, and she had barely managed to land without dying. She had walked for hours through the blizzard, sure that she was going to freeze to death. Then she had seen the light from the hut, and she had run toward it. She had not known a human lived there. If she had known, she might have kept walking into the storm. She might have chosen death over the monster. How wrong she had been. Tae-woo was packing the supplies he had gathered for her. He moved around the hut with quick, efficient movements, putting everything into a bag she could carry. Food, water, heat packs, medicine. He had even drawn a simple map showing the direction of her crashed ship. Nira watched him work. This human had given her everything. He had shared his food, his warmth, his medicine. He had asked for nothing in return. He had not even asked why she was on this planet or where she came from. He had simply helped her because she needed help. The Villani did not do that. Her people were careful and suspicious. They helped their own kind. But strangers had to prove themselves first. Trust had to be earned over months or years. Tae-woo had trusted her from the first moment. He had opened his door in the middle of a deadly storm and pulled her inside. He had turned his back to her while he slept. Even though she could have hurt him, he had treated her like a friend, not an enemy. Was this what humans were really like? Or was Tae-woo special, different from other humans? Nira did not know. But she wanted to find out. Tae-woo finished packing and brought the bag to her. It was heavy with supplies. But Nira was stronger now. Her hands had healed well, and the food had given her energy. She could carry it. She took the bag and put it over her shoulder. Then she stood in front of Tae-woo, not sure what to do next. In Villani culture, there were formal words you said when someone saved your life. There were rituals and promises and debts of honor, but she did not know how to explain any of that to him, so she did something simple instead. She placed her hand over her heart and bowed her head. It was a gesture of deep respect among her people. It meant, "I see you. I honor you. I will not forget." Tae-woo seemed to understand. He placed his own hand over his heart and bowed his head too. They stood like that for a moment. Two creatures from different worlds, sharing a connection that went beyond words. Then Nira turned and walked to the door. Tae-woo pressed the button, and the door slid open. Cold air rushed in, but it was nothing like the deadly blizzard of before. The storm was over. The way was clear. Nira stepped outside. The snow crunched under her feet. She looked back at Tae-woo, standing in the doorway of his small hut. He raised his hand in a wave. She waved back. Then she started walking. The journey to her ship took most of the day. Tae-woo's map was accurate, and the heat packs kept her warm enough to survive. By late afternoon, she could see the dark shape of her vessel half buried in a snowdrift. The ship was damaged, but not destroyed. Nira spent the rest of the day making repairs. The engines were the main problem. Several parts had frozen and cracked in the storm, but Vellani's ships were designed to be fixed with simple tools, and Nira was a trained pilot. By nightfall, she had the engines working again. She could leave now. She could fly back to the Vellani Empire and report what had happened. But first, she had something to do. Nira activated her ship's recording system. She sat in front of the camera, her silver eyes serious, and she began to speak. This is Nira of the 3rd Exploration Fleet. I am recording this message for the Council, and for all Vellani who will listen. I have something important to say about humans. She paused, gathering her thoughts. We have been told that humans are monsters. We have been taught to fear them from childhood. Our histories are full of their wars, their weapons, their capacity for destruction. All of this is true. Humans have done terrible things. Another pause. But that is not the complete story. She told them everything. She described the storm and the crash. She described finding the hut and the human inside. She described her terror and his kindness. She talked about the food and the medicine and the music. She talked about the pictures of Earth, the oceans and mountains and laughing children. The human who saved me is called Tae-woo. He is a scientist, working alone on this frozen world. He did not have to help me. He could have turned me away, and I would have died in the storm. He could have hurt me. I was weak and helpless, and he was the predator all our stories warned us about. Nira's voice grew stronger. But he did not hurt me. He took care of me. He treated me like a person, not like an enemy. He shared everything he had, asked for nothing, and wished me well when I left. She looked directly into the camera. I am not saying the stories about humans are false. I have seen the recordings of their wars. I know what they are capable of. But I am saying that the stories are incomplete. Humans are not just killers, they are also healers. They are not just destroyers, they are also creators. They make beautiful music and they love their families and they help strangers who knock on their doors in the middle of deadly storms. Nira leaned forward. We have avoided humans for centuries because we were afraid. We assumed they would attack us if we made contact. But what if we were wrong? What if the monsters we feared are just people, complicated people, capable of both good and evil, just like us? She sat back. I do not know what the council will decide. I do not know if this message will change anything. But I know what I saw. I know what I experienced. And I know that one human, on one frozen world, showed me more kindness than I ever expected to find. She reached out to stop the recording, then hesitated. His name was Tae-woo, she said again. Remember that name. Remember that there is at least one human in the galaxy who proved our fears wrong. She stopped the recording and saved the file. Tomorrow, she would send it to the council. They might ignore it. They might punish her for speaking against centuries of tradition, but she did not care. She had to tell the truth. That night, Nira slept in her ship. It was cold and uncomfortable, nothing like Tae-woo's warm hut. But she slept well because her mind was at peace. She had been terrified of humans her entire life. That fear was gone now. In its place was something new. Curiosity. Hope, a desire to learn more about these strange creatures who could be so terrible and so kind at the same time. Maybe other Vellani felt the same way. Maybe there were others who questioned the old stories. Maybe her message would reach them and give them courage. The galaxy had kept humans at a distance for too long. It was time to take a closer look, and Nira would be the first. 6 months had passed since the storm on Kepler 442b. Tae-woo sat in his hut, looking out the window at the frozen plains. The ice was always the same here, white and empty and endless. He had returned to his work after Nira left, collecting samples and sending reports. Life had gone back to normal, but something had changed. He thought about the alien woman often. He wondered if she had made it back to her people. He wondered if she was safe. He wondered if she ever thought about the strange human who had given her soup and bandaged her hands. He would probably never know. The galaxy was vast, and humans were isolated. They had tried to make contact with other species many times, but they had always been rejected. The other races did not want anything to do with Earth's children. Tae-woo understood why. He had read the history books. He knew what his species had done, but he also knew what his species could do. He knew about the hospitals and schools, the charities and rescue workers. He knew about the people who spent their lives helping others, doctors who worked for free, volunteers who traveled to disaster zones, ordinary people who opened their doors to strangers in need. Humans were complicated. They were capable of great evil and great good. The galaxy only saw the evil. They did not know about the good. Maybe Nira had changed that. Maybe she had told her people about him. Maybe she had planted a seed. Or maybe nothing had changed at all. Maybe she had gone home and forgotten about the human in the hut. Maybe the galaxy would keep fearing Earth forever. Tae-woo sighed and turned back to his work. There was nothing he could do about it. He was just one person, one scientist on a frozen world, far from anything that mattered. Then his computer made a sound. Tae-woo looked at the screen. He had received a message, but that was impossible. He was the only human in this sector. The nearest Earth station was weeks away. Who could be contacting him? He opened the message. His heart stopped. It was from the Villani Empire. The message was short and formal. It said that a representative of the Villani Council wished to meet with him. It said that his name had been mentioned in a report that had created much discussion. It said that the council was curious about the human who had helped one of their people. At the bottom of the message was a signature. Nira, of the 3rd Exploration Fleet. Tae-woo read the message 3 times, unable to believe it. The Villani wanted to meet him. They were curious about him. After centuries of avoiding humans, they were reaching out, because of Nira. Because of what he had done. He wrote back immediately. Yes, he would meet with them. Yes, he would answer their questions. Yes, he hoped this could be the start of something new. The response came faster than he expected. A ship would arrive at his location in 2 days. He should prepare for visitors. Tae-woo spent those 2 days cleaning his hut and trying not to panic. He had never met an alien before Nira. Now he was going to meet more of them, important ones, representatives of an entire civilization. What was he supposed to say? How was he supposed to act? He decided to do what he had done with Nira. He would be himself. He would be honest and kind and patient. If that was not good enough, then nothing would be. The Villani ship arrived on schedule. It was beautiful, smooth, and silver, shaped like a leaf floating on the wind. It landed softly on the ice near Tae-woo's hut, and a door opened in its side. 3 figures walked out. They were all tall and thin, with pale blue skin and silver eyes. One of them was older, with lines on his face and a serious expression. One was younger, looking around with nervous curiosity, and one was Nira. She had changed since Tae-woo last saw her. She stood straighter. She looked stronger. Her silver eyes were bright with confidence, instead of fear. When she saw Tae-woo, she smiled. He smiled back. The older Villani, a council member named Heron, stepped forward. He spoke in heavily accented but understandable human language. He had been studying, preparing for this meeting. "You are the human Tae-woo," he said. It was not a question. "Yes," Tae-woo answered. "Welcome to my home, such as it is." He opened the door to his hut and invited them inside. The space was cramped with 4 people, but they managed. Tae-woo made tea for everyone, including himself, to show them it was safe to drink. The meeting lasted for hours. Heron asked many questions. He wanted to know about Tae-woo's work, his family, his beliefs. He wanted to know about Earth and human culture. He wanted to understand how Tae-woo could be so different from the monsters in the stories. Tae-woo answered honestly. He told them about his life, his hopes, his fears. He told them about Earth's history, the good and the bad. He did not hide the wars or the crimes, but he also talked about the kindness, the love, the endless human desire to help and heal. We are not perfect, he said. We have done terrible things, but we are trying to be better. Every generation, we learn a little more. Every year, we grow a little kinder. It is slow, but it is happening. Heron listened carefully. His face showed no emotion, but his silver eyes were thoughtful. Finally, he asked the most important question. Why did you help Nira? You did not know her. You did not owe her anything. She was a stranger from a species that fears and hates your kind. Why did you save her? Tae-woo thought about the question. It was a good one. He had asked himself the same thing many times. Because she needed help, he said simply. She was dying, and I could save her. What other reason do I need? Heron stared at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. I think I understand, he said. The meeting ended, but the conversation was not over. Heron told Tae-woo that the council was considering opening formal contact with humanity. It would take time, there was much fear to overcome, much history to process. But the door was open now. The first step had been taken. Before they left, Nira approached Tae-woo alone. She had been quiet during the meeting, but now she wanted to speak. Thank you, she said in human language. She had been practicing. Tae-woo smiled. You already thanked me. Back when you left. That was for saving my life, she said. This is for something else. For showing me the truth. For making me brave enough to tell others. Tae-woo shook his head. You were already brave. You walked through a blizzard to survive. You stayed in a hut with a monster. You sent a message to your council that could have destroyed your career. That was all you, Nira. I just made soup. Nira laughed. It was a beautiful sound like music, like bells ringing in the wind. You did more than that, she said. You changed everything. She reached out and took his hand. Her skin was cool and smooth, but her grip was strong. The galaxy has been wrong about humans, she said. I am going to prove it. I am going to show everyone what you showed me. Tae-woo felt tears forming in his eyes, but he held them back. He squeezed her hand gently. I hope you do, he said. And I hope I get to see it. Nira smiled one last time. Then she turned and walked back to her ship. The other Villani followed her. The silver vessel rose into the sky and vanished into the stars. Tae-woo stood outside his hut, watching them go. The cold air bit at his skin, but he did not notice. His heart was full of hope, full of wonder, full of the strange and beautiful possibility of a new future. The galaxy had called humans monsters. But one woman had learned the truth, and she was going to spread it far and wide. Maybe it would take years. Maybe it would take generations, but the seed had been planted, and someday, it would grow. Tae-woo looked up at the stars, millions of them, scattered across the black sky like diamonds on velvet. Somewhere out there, Nero was flying home. Somewhere out there, the future was waiting. He smiled and went back inside. The storm was over. A new day had begun.